Hello y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to make a crochet tam or crochet beret hat. Now this is not a difficult pattern, but you will need to be comfortable doing the double crochet, half double crochet stitch, as well as we're going to be doing some increasing and decreasing, which I'll walk you through that process. Okay, so this is not a difficult project, but you're going to have to be focused because we're going to do some counting and things like that. Okay, so the beret, the raspberry beret, I used the big twist yarn that you can get from Joann's Fabric. It's the equivalent of like a Red Heart Super Saver yarn, 4-weight yarn, but it's a little bit softer. So you want to start by making yourself a magic circle. I'm going to ask that you follow along with the screen there. If you do not know how to make a magic circle, I'm going to try to go slow enough so that you can pick it up. If you do not know how to do a magic circle, it's not easy for you. You can always make a chain of 4, slip stitch to join in the beginning and make like a small circle and then work through that circle. Okay, so just do a magic circle. You're going to chain 3 and that is going to count as your first double crochet stitch. Now, this project will have a lot of instructions. I hope that you'll stay tuned with me so that I can get you through the process, but it's not hard to create, okay? Once you get your initial chain of 3, which is your first double crochet stitch, you're going to end up working a total of 11 more double crochet stitches into the magic circle. So just like if you're working it through a foundation chain, in this case, you're going to be working it through the circle. So basically at this point, what you'll do is, let me show you. Here I'm just making a double crochet. So go ahead and yarn over your crochet hook, insert that into the circle. Pull through your loop, yarn over, you're going to pull through the top 2 stitches, yarn over, and you're going to pull through the bottom 2 stitches. And that's a double crochet stitch. The only difference here is you're working it through that circle. Okay, now I'm using this nice beautiful hook, but I don't think it shows up very well on camera, so I'm going to switch to something else, and I'm going to end up switching to something else a little bit later. The lighting was a little off when I was filming this, so I'm changing that up a little bit, but you'll still get all of the content that you need to be able to make the hat. Just continue following along. Okay, so again, I'm making a total of 12 double crochet stitches into this magic circle. And see here again, I switched my hook one last time. They're all the same 6mm crochet hook. If I didn't mention it, I'm using a 6mm crochet hook to complete this. So pause your video if you want to and go ahead and continue working, and then I'll kind of meet you back. And you'll notice that I'll do this throughout the video. I won't stay on camera the entire time, but I'm going to get you started. I'll tell you where to pause, and then you can kind of keep working. Okay, so once you have 12 double crochet stitches, you are going to then kind of close up your circle. So a magic circle, all you have to do is just, I'm giving it a count right here. We're going to close it up. There's a tail that was left at the very beginning of your magic circle. You're going to pull that tail to cinch in that center circle, and then you're going to slip stitch the rounds together to make a complete circle. Now I accidentally did a single crochet stitch here. You do not have to do a single crochet stitch. Just insert your crochet hook, pull it back through both loops, and then you're done. I accidentally did a single crochet stitch. Not necessary, but it didn't mess up the project. Now once you've done that, we've already completed round 1, which was that initial 12. Now we're going to go into round 2. So chain 3, which serves as your first double crochet stitch, and then in every stitch around we're going to do 2. So we've already done 1. Into the same space as that chain of 3, you're going to do another double crochet stitch. Okay, just like that. Now just kind of pull your work apart a little bit. That second stitch is a little bit harder to see, but just kind of pull it apart just a little bit. Towards the top of that stitch, you're going to do 2 double crochet stitches. This is considered an increase round, so we're increasing from 12 in round 1 to 24 in round 2. Okay, so you see there, you're going to do another double crochet stitch. Now again, I'm making the assumption that you know how to do a double crochet stitch. If you do not know how to do one, I will link in the video down in the description box a slower tutorial on how to do a double crochet stitch, but I do kind of show it here on screen. Okay, so this is considered round 2, and this round we're going to be going all the way around, placing 2 double crochet stitches in every stitch around until you get a total of 24 stitches. Okay, I'll show you one more time, I think, here on camera, and then I'm going to pause my video, or you can pause your video and keep working. Okay, so at this point, just go ahead and continue putting 2 double crochet stitches in every stitch around until you get a total of 24. Do not, guys, don't get lost in all of this. If you just make sure that you get 24 stitches in like a circle formation, your tam or beret will still turn out beautifully. Once you have your full 24 stitches, you're going to do just like we did in the previous round. We're going to into that chain 3 towards the top. We're going to slip stitch to join. So I'm going to do a couple more stitches here. I don't think I had quite enough. Okay, so I'm on my 24th stitch. And again, in that chain of 3, that initial chain of 3 that we created, we're going to slip stitch. So basically that means just insert your crochet hook into the top portion of that chain of 3. You don't have to get too technical about it. It's going to still turn out fine. Just find a nice area where insert your crochet hook. Your yarn should naturally kind of be in place. If not, add loop around and then just pull through. And that's completing a slip stitch. And that's joining your rounds. So that's what we call joining your rounds. Making sure that the beginning and the end connect. You're going to chain 3. Now we're going to do another increase round, but we're going to increase it a little differently, okay? So you did your chain of 3. In your next available stitch, so not in that very same spot like we did before, but the next space, you're going to do 2 double crochet stitches. Okay, so not where the chain of 3 was, but in the stitch next to it, we're going to do 2 double crochet stitches in the same spot. Okay, and then once you have your stitch completed, in that next space, the next stitch, you're just going to do 1 double crochet stitch. Okay, and that essentially is the pattern for your 3rd round. You'll do 2 double crochet stitches in the same spot, in the same stitch, and then you'll do 1 in the next stitch. You should have a total of 36 stitches going around the 3rd round, okay? So 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet. When I say 2 double crochets, I'm meaning 2 double crochets in the same spot. Okay? So I'll do, I think 1 or 2 more on camera. So that's in the same exact spot you see there. And then you're going to do 1 in its own spot. That's going to increase your round from 24 to 36. So you want to pause your video and keep working until you get all the way back around. Now, remember, count your stitches. This is what I'm saying with this project. You are going to have to count your stitches, and then go ahead and slip stitch to join, making sure that you have a total of 36. And it's important to kind of get the number correct because you're going to have to decrease. So go ahead and make sure you get the right number of stitches. Okay, so now we're on to round 4, another increase round. Okay, so you're going to do your chain of 3, which counts as your first double crochet stitch. In the next available stitch, not in the same spot as your chain of 3, you're going to do a set of 2 double crochets. So you're going to do 2 double crochet stitches in the same space. Now I'm pretty sure with this project, every one of my rounds start with 2 double crochets in the first available stitch. Okay. So once you have 2 double crochets completed, you are now going to do 1 double crochet in the next space, just like so. And then another double crochet in the next space. So basically in between your 2 double crochet stitches, you're going to have 2 double crochet stitches in their own space. Okay. So now we're going to do a set of 2. So 2 double crochets in the same stitch. I hope that makes sense, guys. We are increasing every single round by adding more double crochet stitches in between the 2 double crochet stitches. Get it? So I'm giving it a little count, and I'm just counting the V's, I'm counting the actual stitches to make sure that I have, in this case, 48 double crochet stitches. Once I have that, I'm going to slip stitch to join, and we're going to go to round 5. Okay, round 5, chain 3, and now we're going to increase to 60. So this is just keeps growing. It's like a flat circle, okay? In your first available stitch, you're going to do 2 double crochet stitches. Okay, and then your next 3 stitches, you're going to do 1 double crochet stitch into each one. So that's important, because I'm going to let you go in a second. I'm going to let you work on your own for a few rounds. So you're just basically going to increase each round by 1 stitch, and you're going to increase it in between your double crochet clusters, right? The places where you have 2 double crochets, in between that is where you're going to add an additional stitch. So pause your video at this point and keep working. And remember, the pattern for this one is 2 double crochets, and then you're going to have 3 individual double crochets, and then you're going to go back to 2 double crochets in the same spot. I hope that makes sense, guys, because that's really all we're doing. And if it doesn't, rewind it and kind of go back and see if you can't get that pattern down. Okay, so I'm just kind of showing you. Let's talk about the construction of this hat. So basically, we've increased it going all the way out from 12 to 24 to 36 to 48. And as you notice, the pattern is we're increasing each row by 12. Okay, once we get to round 6, we're going to switch it up just a little bit. We're going to move into a half double crochet stitch, and I do that mainly because I really don't want my hat to be so floppy. So I switched it up to a half double crochet stitch, but that is optional. If you want to keep working a double crochet stitch, you can do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on round 6. Now we're going to go ahead and start with a chain of 2 this time, just because it's a little bit of a shorter stitch. And into that next stitch, just like we've been doing before, we're going to do 2 half double crochets instead of double crochets. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the same space. And then we're going to do 4 half double crochet stitches in each stitch across. So for 4 stitches, we're going to do half double crochets. I'm just going to make sure I have my pattern here. Okay, and this is how we're going to increase for this round. You should have a total of 72 half double crochet stitches for this round 6. Okay, so once you've done 4 half double crochet stitches, you're going to do 2 half double crochet stitches in the same space, and then you're going to follow it up with 4. So do you see? I hope you can kind of see the pattern at this point. We've worked it quite a bit of times, but each round we are going to be increasing in between the half double crochet stitches by 1 stitch. Okay, so continue working all the way around using a half double crochet stitch. Now again, I'm going to come off camera because I think we've done this quite a bit, and I'm going to let you work all the way to round 10. So you're going to do 72 stitches, then the next round you're going to do 84, next 96, 108, and then 120. Okay, so this is what it should look like after you have gone all the way around, and this is going to be the dome part of your beret. I did mine to be about 10 inches, 10.5 inches across. If you were going to do like a Rastafarian style hat and you wanted to have a lot more room in that center area, you could just keep working your rounds until it gets big and floppy. Okay, so in this case, we're doing a tam, a beret, and I did a 10-inch round, like a small pizza. That's the size that I did. Okay, so for rounds 11, 12, and 13, you're going to just go around and you're not going to do any increases. So we're going to do all the way around for all 3 of those rounds, a total of 120 stitches in each stitch around. So there's no more increasing between 11, 12, and 13. So just continue working around. Now at some point your hat should starting to bend in. It just starts folding up on itself at some point. If you found that your hat's not folding in at all, make sure you have 120 stitches, okay? If you're following my pattern. There could be that you have too many stitches and that's why it's not bending, and so that's going to be important, okay? So once you have this done and it's starting to cup up a little bit, we're going to start our decrease rounds. Now, let's talk about decreasing. You can either use your head circumference, the measurement from around your head, and kind of line it up with your beret, the top portion of your beret, and then you can kind of see where you need to bring the hat back down to. So for instance, if this is around my round 6, how many stitches did I have in my round 6? In my round 6, I had 72 stitches. So I would need to bring it down to 72 stitches, if that makes sense. So that's one way of doing it. You could also use your hat crown size. So if you measure across the crown portion of this beret, you should, depending on what size you want, in my case I wanted it to be around 7.5, I could then see how many rows down that I need to bring it so that it will actually fit on my head. So I hope that's not too confusing, but if you're just following the pattern, I took mine all the way down to 60 stitches. So let me show you how I did 60 stitches, okay? So when I got to 120 stitches, at that point I had 8 half double crochet stitches in between each set of half double crochet stitches, okay? What that means is I'm going to create 7 half double crochet stitches. So I did a chain of 2, and now I'm doing 7 half double crochet stitches in each stitch. When I get to that 8th stitch, which is where I normally do my increase, I'm going to skip that stitch. Now this is the easy beginner friendly way of doing a decrease, okay? So instead of me doing a half double crochet stitch in that 8th stitch, I'm skipping it, and I'm going to make a stitch into the next space. Okay, that is going to automatically decrease the number of stitches that I have in that space, and I'm going to continue doing that all the way around. So I'm going to do 7 half double crochet stitches. When I get to that 8th stitch, I'm going to skip it, and I'm going to continue doing that. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to continue doing that process of skipping 1 stitch in every round until I get 60 stitches in my rounds. Okay, it's a crude way of doing it, but it still turns out really pretty. And if you're a beginner crocheter, there's always techniques to doing everything, but this is going to allow you to get a cute little beret without all of the technical part of crocheting. Okay, so once you get all the way back around, you're going to slip stitch to join. You're going to do a chain of 2 because we're doing half double crochet stitches, and you're going to continue that process. So I hope I'm not confusing you. So you're going to chain 2, and then your next one you're going to do 6 half double crochet stitches. When you get to that 7th stitch, you're going to skip it. The next round you're going to do 5 half double crochet stitches. When you get to the 6th stitch, you're going to skip it. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Essentially every row you're going to keep skipping until you count around and you get to 60 stitches. Whew. This sounds complicated, but it's really not. Once you have done that, once you've done your complete decreasing, you can try the hat on your head, and at that point it should pretty much fit nicely. The opening should be the size of the diameter that's gonna fit around your head. And if you like the way that looks, then you can move on to creating your brim, which is the final step of your crochet beret. Okay, so the way I did my brim, let me give you 2 options. You can just do double crochet stitches all the way around, or you can do a few rows of single crochet stitches. That works. I did a front post, back post double crochet stitch, which makes this a little bit more complicated for my beginners, but it's not undoable. It's not hard, okay? You're going to do a round of double crochet stitches. You should have a round of 60 double crochet stitches. You'll slip stitch to join, okay? Then your next round, you're going to alternate between a front post and a back post double crochet stitch. Now, that could be a little complicated if you've never done one before, so please check my description box below to show yourself how to do a front post, back post double crochet stitch. If you've gotten this far, I don't want you to not do the project because you're confused about this stitch. Just do 3 or 4 rounds of single crochet stitches. That will end the beret beautifully, okay? If you want to do the front post, back post double crochet stitch, I'm showing it to you here on screen, but I do have a more detailed video on my channel that shows you, and I will link that here, and I will also link it in my description box. I hate for you to have to go somewhere else for the rest of the tutorial, but it would be very long if I added that to this project here, okay? So if you don't want to do the front post, back post, just do 3 or 4 rounds, depending on where you want it to sit on your forehead, of single crochet stitches, and that will end the hat nicely. What I did here is once I finished my round of front post, back post double crochet stitches, which is a mouthful, I went around and just did 1 row of slip stitches just to tighten everything up a little bit more and make everything sit really nicely. So my very final row, my very final round was a round of slip stitches, and that kind of tightened everything up, and it just makes everything look really, really clean, okay? So that's what it should look like here. This is basically the end of the hat. This is what it looks like on me. And if you can tell in this picture here, there is a lot more room between the crown around my head and the top. That's because I put in 1 extra row from the blue hat. So when I went around in that non-increase row, rounds 11, 12, and 13, with this blue hat here, I only did 2 rounds of no increases, and the red hat I did 3. So that's the difference in between. And if I was doing like a Rastafarian type of hat, you could just add more rows, which would allow it to be a lot bigger and fuller in the dome area, or that puffy area of the hat. Okay, so I hope that made sense, guys. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. I know this was a super long video, so if I left something out or if you didn't quite understand anything, please let me know. Leave a comment down below, or you can go to Instagram and see me over there. Sometimes I'm a little bit more responsive. So guys, that's pretty much it for the video. I'm going to just throw in some tips. If you're interested in the tips, you can stick along with me. But other than that, I'm pretty much done. I'm finishing off my work. I'm just going to cut off the end here. I'm going to tie everything off, and then I'm just going to weave in any extra ends. And that's pretty much how it ends. Now, just a couple of things. If you put your tam or your beret on and it feels a little bit too loose, for whatever reason, maybe the hook size, your stitch work was a little bit loose, whatever, you can always go around it again with another row of slip stitch. Slip stitching tends to tighten the work a little bit more, so if you find that it's a little bit loose around your forehead area, try around a slip stitching. That may help, okay? Now, if you want to change the size of your tam, once you get the right measurements based off of the size chart, or based off of measuring the circumference of your head, when you create your rounds, you're going to end up decreasing the number that you need. If you need a smaller hat, make less rounds. And since we made a larger hat, we went all the way up to round 10. In your case, you may only need to go to round 8 or round 9, just depending on the size that you're looking for, okay? Another thing that might be helpful is if you head over to my website, print the pattern, hopefully it's there already, and then work along with me with the pattern. It might be a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. Okay, so right here what I'm trying to show you is at the top of a lot of berets, there's like a little stem, almost like a little pumpkin stem. To create that, all I did was I left that chain, I left a nice little tail with my magic circle before I ever really got started, and then I am going to just make a chain stitch with that remaining tail. So I just kind of work the crochet hook back through, and I'm going to just do a single crochet stitch tail, like just a chain. Like if you're going to start a crochet row, I'm just going to do a chain, and it's going to be no more than 3 or 4 inches. That's it, guys. And then I'm just going to kind of fold it over on itself and then just attach it to the inside of the hat. Now this is completely optional. You don't even have to do it. I just thought it was kind of cute, so I'm going to throw that extra piece in there. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you can kind of follow along with the screen and see how I made that happen, but totally not necessary for the project, just an added embellishment. Okay, you can also put a button up there, or you can not put anything at all up there. Okay, so that's that for that area. Just creating a small chain, and then I'm going to tie it off, and then I'm going to use my yarn needle, and I'm just going to sew it, fold it over itself, and then kind of sew it down. And that's pretty much that. So you see how it looks there, and I'm just going to fold it over and make a little a loop, I guess a little loop. Okay, all right guys, so that's pretty much it. You have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you and see you in my next video. Bye.